empty phone. Please hold while I try to connect you. Good morning, husband. How are you?
Hi, you know how to call my sugar pudding.
How's everything going?
Everything went well. I'm on my way back home.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Yeah, your way back home.
yeah, I just did. This was a post call, and their rates went up.
Oh, did it now?
Yeah, so it used to be.
As far as what?
You remember how I melt the refrigerator? Remember how I be steaming the refrigerator, all that ice?
Steaming it. Mm-hmm.
That went from $267 to $292.
Whoa,
So now it's a $300. It's a $300 job now. Like that. So my rates are going up with them. I go up when they go up. How's your day going? Can you hear me? Must have lost signal. Damn, somebody actually went through there. Door. I said, how's your day going? Lost you. Talking to us.
If you got one hung drawer out there or one sympathetic drawer, it's definitely going to go on longer because you're going to have this one drawer that's just going to be like, nope. We got to redo the evidence. We got to look through documents. Nope. I'm trying to maybe convince the other drawers. I think it's going to go on for more than a day. But you would think at least every objective drawer would look at all the evidence, at least just browse through it. You know, there's thousands and thousands of documents here, and exhibits and texts and bank records and correspondence and communication and emails. There's so much documents, and all those summary charts, all that stuff. Omitted. So the jury has all this. On top of it is believed the jurors have copies of these free calls. They might start watching some free calls back in the robing room or the juror's box, wherever they deliberate. I say that sarcastically with the robing room because we've been hearing the robing room. The robing room. Hey, Leanne Wilson. Good morning. Sweet Jenna. Good morning. Felicia Vargas. Thank you very much. Good morning. Fly Girl 517. Good morning. Hey, DJ.
I mean, it's amazing. We just thankful.
Amazing. It's amazing. It's an unfair advantage because I, not only as a young crazy coon out of Kentucky, I sat at these guys' knees and spouted out these wild ideas I had as a 28-year-old, and they encouraged it. And our journeys have been intertwined ever since. No matter how far away we go, we come right back. And Solar Records, for what Solar is, and we can talk about it, was much built on the back of the Whispers. There were others. There's no question there were others. But the consistency and steadiness of who you guys are as a group I think is a lesson that's timeless. To our audience who might not be aware of you, it is passion and discipline and love for your craft. Isn't that important to what you do?
Oh, it's everything. It's everything. I mean, you know, Nick, we lost him in 2016, but you know him And you know how serious he was about doing what it is that we do and wanting it to be perfect. And to this day, you know, there's remnants of Nick Caldwell throughout the group. You know, how we approach the stage, what it means to, what our fans mean to us. And like I said, the longevity is unbelievable. To this day, we can't believe that we're still here.
Is there a secret? I'm sure brothers, especially twins, don't get along for 50 years all the time. And I can't, Herb, help me out here. I can't think of a single band that has original members for that long still working. It seems like there's some kind of longevity secret that you need to share with us.
Well, with vocal groups, you're absolutely right. You know, most vocal groups, you know, we're very fortunate that there's only one Whispers. There's not two or three other groups. Mm-hmm. And you asked what it was. I mean, there's two things. One starts with desperation, and then the other is just, you know, being what you are. You know, being what you are, not what you ain't. We learned years ago that, and we've been through it all. We've been through disco, you know, Wisco, Rapco, rap. We've been through it all, and we're still here. And to answer your question specifically, we just kept being. We know who we are, we know what we can do, and we stick to that. For some reason, that has lasted. That's helped us for, like Walt said, anybody would believe, I still can't believe we're here 54 years later. And somebody believed it earlier, but we didn't. I mean, we thought, we were happy to, as a matter of fact, I remember I used to say to Walt, we need to hurry up and make as much money as we can before they wake up. You know, because and at that time we was only making $30 a night, and I said, oh man, they gotta be asleep. So that's where we come from. It's really real. And but for some reason, the man upstairs and the good old common sense just said, hey, we're gonna kick everybody's butt.
Well, you know what, for a short time, if you remember, I went to serve my country. I went to Vietnam, and I was gone for 2 years. And of course, when I got back, the Whisper had ran off and left me standing in the wings, because when I got back, as great as I thought I was, they showed me that, man, there was a whole lot more to learn. But that's the only time that we were separated, you know. But the other thing is that you mentioned the name Whispers. If you notice, we talked about this a lot. There's never been the Whispers featuring Walter and Scotty.
Yep.
Never been the Whispers featuring Scotty. It's always been just the Whispers. Yeah. And what we really talked about was that from the very beginning, we kind of knew that we were only as strong as our weakest link, and we knew that everybody had a part to play. You know, Nick did the choreography, and you know, I think keeping it simple. And the main thing was never really thinking that we were bigger than what we really were. Mm-hmm. And you know as well, when the success came, we'd been around a while. Mm-hmm. We weren't young guys that had just experienced success. You know, we were in our late 20s, early 30s. So if you remember when And the Beat came along in 1980, I mean, we were just stunned, because we really thought maybe it might be another Whispers, and there was another Whispers in Europe. We've been traveling, you know, trying so long, but 1980, and I tell young people this all the time, all of a sudden you got this big hit, you know, and this big hit goes double platinum. And as Scotty put it, we finally could get our shit out the cleaners, you know? and we never looked back. You know, it was 1980 up through now, you know?
Yeah. And you know what's interesting, Walt, about your point, there's a corollary here. What the audience may not know is that I was working at the record company that the Whispers were on. So I got to know them as somebody who was working on their behalf. We later went on and worked together on a number of things. So I saw a lot of this and I learned a lot from it. But Pensalo's Place and your success are similar. We started Pensalo's Place, I was in my 50s when I started Pensalo's Place. And then the success came between 50 and whatever. And it's not, that's not how it's supposed to go. It's the internet, you're supposed to be 12, you're supposed to have, you know, all the other kind of stuff. And I think the lesson to the audience should be one, be who you are.
Right.
Two, be disciplined.
Right.
Three, don't be affected by the winds that blow your way. Have the courage of your convictions. And be experts at your craft. Walter and Scotty, they've said the truth, but I can tell you as a student of it, if you go to a Whisper show and you watch the complete brilliance of stagecraft, and if you're observant, you're going to learn things that you just never knew were important. You're going to learn that snapping your collar has a thing. You're going to learn that the way you do a time step. You're going to learn when you drop a joke. You're going to learn things that look really like they're natural. And this is craftsmanship at the highest level. And that's why Whisper Show, they still touring, they're still selling out, they're still doing whatever the case may be, because you walk out of that thing absolutely satisfied. You have been taught, you've been fed, and they're never not who they are. Never not who they are. So, obviously I have a little bit of a sense of pride of ownership here. So if I fawn over you, we'll have to blush. But it is the truth. Like, I've been to Whisper rehearsals. I've been to a million shows. I've been in a recording studio. And for the audience, just for Dave and I in Pensal's place, the Whisper studio, the Whisper's recording at a studio called Skip Saylor, that's where Dave and I met.
That's right. That's right, Herb.
We met in the lobby. Y'all didn't even know. We met in the lobby, and before we came in, Dave and I talked out in the lobby for like 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Well,
and then
I was in the lobby for 2.5 hours, but yeah.
Well, Dave was living in the lobby. I was trying to come see you all, and that is literally where this relationship started. And I didn't talk to him after that until Island Records called and said, "Hey, we got these white producers who are producing a hip hop group called Belle Biv DeVoe, and we need like a mixer guy." And I said, "Well, I met this white dude who worked with James Brown and Cameo from Atlanta. Give him a try." I'd never heard anything Dave did. They tried him, thought it was me, was a remix that blew up, that Dave did, and his career went through the roof. So you all are responsible for he and I coming together and us doing this.
That's true.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story.
Crazy.
There's a lot of things happening. Skip Saylor's recording studio.
A lot of things happen around the Whispers.
Yeah. A
lot of things happen around the Whispers. So it's when you become a part of living history, I think just the way you conduct yourself regularly is how you make history. But it is Black History Month. How does that hit you guys in terms of the importance of it, given where we are and your contributions to it, what you mean in it now?
Well, to me, you probably get two separate answers, but when I think of Black history in terms of entertainers, we talk about all the time about what entertainers has contributed to the business and how little they have gotten for it. We talk all the time about, if you remember her, when we used to play basketball at our friend's house, we discuss, when you guys make it, what do you know about publishing? What do you know about royalties? And I remember reading about Little Richard and all these guys finally getting big payoffs. I remember them saying that Little Richard got a lump sum of $65 million. Well, he really should have gotten 3 times that, in all honesty, because these guys set the bar. Chuck Richard, Little Richard, James Brown. And of course, when I think of Black history, that's kind of where I land on Black entertainers. And what they've done. I mean, we've come a long way in terms of the way it used to be. I will agree to that. Man, did they lay down some foundations for it possible to be a Whispers. I was looking yesterday at New Edition on the Tamron Hall show. And if you remember, these guys we met with them to talk about what to do when you come off the road. This was like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And look what happened. I looked at it and I was so proud. I wish the show could have gone on for 2 hours, because listening to them, it brings me back to all of the things that they've gone through. They have a tremendous story to tell. And here they are today, now going on the 30-city tour with them being, that's quite an accomplishment, man, And I'm just proud of those guys. I was telling Scotty, I looked at the show and they came off just
incredible as far as I'm concerned.
Scotty, what about you, man? I know that you don't suffer fools much, but Black history and your contributions to it, your perspective.
Well, first of all, I'm happy to be able to give whatever I've given to this. I'm happy that I was able to do it. But some of the awards that we finally seem to be getting, I would just say that I'm glad they chose to give it to us now. You know, get a little close there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we just received the probably the biggest award we'll ever get, the president's
the presidential
entertainers award, and
Amazing.
And doing Black, you know, so that's great. And like I said, I'm glad I'm getting it now. I don't want to get it on the other side because I wouldn't know nothing about it.
Yeah.
But as far as there's been some ups and downs. I mean, the show is not long enough for me to go into what I feel the way we've been treated. Not only us, I'm talking about Black acts, period. But other than that, I mean, that's just all part of the turf, I guess. But other than that, I'm just happy to be a part of it and glad that we were able to contribute.
There's a ton of people who have and continue to look up to you. The fascinating thing always for me to watch as just an observer, but obviously as a friend, is the genre, the range of genres of people who go, God, you got to check out the Whispers. It's hip hop, it's R&B, it's adult contemporary, it's your peers, it's kids of the kids of the kids of the peers. They all, the people who sample the music, the people who've made babies to your music, the thing that you also do, and this is important for the audience to understand, is the honor that you bring to your craft. That turns into a currency that you can trade on later in life. If you're dishonorable with your craft, it's going to be a short run.
Absolutely.
But is that right, Walter? Do you agree with that?
Ain't no question about it. You get out of it what you put in it, man. You know,
Yeah.
And it's that simple. When we started out, now conditions have gotten better, no question about it. The things that can happen technically, like what you guys have made it so incredible for an artist to work. Now, you literally, in fact, you guys can make a guy who can't even sing sound like he's Johnny Mathis. you know, that's what technology has done today. But you still have to have what God gave you. You know, we come from the generation, if you remember Leon Silver's, when we did And the Beat Goes On, Leon Silver started this song on his knees doing the bass. He was literally patting the bass drum. Then he went up to the tom-toms and to the snare, and then he played the bass. And there was no drum machine. I'm talking about 1979, 80.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And to think of where we come to now, I mean, that's laughable.
Yeah.
You know, you do one take, there's a vocoder that make you sound like you got the greatest voice in America. It's just so
off
easy,
you go.
you know. But you have to appreciate it, and you never forget. It keeps you humble.
Yeah.
You know, because you start from the beginning, and here we are today, man. It's a whole different ballgame.
Wow.
Guys, I'd like to say something about the music. I love the way that all your songs have incredible bass line hooks. I mean, if you had a couple of drums, you guys singing, and just a bass playing, they'd be hits. I love the way, like Rock Steady and some of those songs, the bass lines just kill me. And then the drums, you're not afraid to put the drums loud, and so that gives you a groove. And the things that I find that I try to emulate when I listen to your records, I listen to them quite a bit, particularly when I'm kind of just in a pensive, kind of just quiet mode, nobody's around. I'll play some stuff, but the intangible elements, the feel, the groove, the emotion, the sensitivity, all of those things will never be able to be accomplished by machines. And I think that's part of the longevity of like I listened to Rock Steady again today. It sounded like it could have been released today, you know?
Yeah.
And just so many songs. I could finish the rest of the week just saying the songs that I like. But you guys, Herb touched on this earlier. the music industry, and particularly songwriting and artists, would be completely different had you guys not pioneered the way for some of this stuff. Because I got here in October of '89 in Los Angeles, and you guys were one of the first people I met, and you don't remember any of this, but you made me feel at ease here in LA by myself. You know, I mean, I was pretty old, but
I'm glad.
still.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what I do remember about you is that you were the problem. It was the problem. I almost said the problem with us is that you were in such high demand. It wasn't your fault, but we just couldn't afford you. I mean, everybody and his brother was trying to get you, and you know this. I mean, I know you don't want to say it now, but yeah, I remember when you were the guy that Herb talked about it earlier, working with people like Cameo. I mean, you can listen to their music.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned, if you want to know the truth, of the importance of the studio, because what you did is pretty much kind of what we did. You brought, and I call it the human element. They haven't made a machine or computer, in my opinion, to this day that can replace that. That's where you came from, and that's where we came from. And we're still doing it today. That human element, some people call it feel, soul, whatever name you want to get it. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I remember when with you in particular, when people say, "Can we get this engineer?" Well, we can get him, but we can't really afford him. And like I said, it wasn't your fault. If you don't have it, you don't have it.
Well, let me be honest with you. I wish you'd have done that, because Herb has been guiding my career forever, really. Since
I would have made it free. So
well, that's what I was about to say, Herb.
That's the only problem with Herb.
Between
I have to be like, don't pay Dave. Go ahead.
Between Herb and I really never had a price. There was a price that I tried to reach, but I did a lot of free stuff, a lot of low paying stuff.
That's when he was not with Herb.
I did a couple of those behind his back.
I know stuff for people like Michael Jackson and Quincy, and the problem with that is those names, if your name and their names come up, people just assume, I'm not even going in that door, and
right.
Even trying to get in there. Now that's why I said it wasn't your fault. It was the company that you were running with and who you were doing stuff with. Yeah. Now in our neighborhood, it just wasn't happening.
Let me ask this as we were talking about music, because obviously there is a process in a group that has to be collaborative in some ways. Sometimes it's democratic, sometimes it's not, both in terms of song selection, production, all that kind of stuff, because songs were so important to the Whisperers. Blessed with voices, blessed with discipline, all that kind of stuff, but without hit songs. So one, the process of choosing songs, how did that go, and how important was collaboration to you guys?
Oh man, now you're getting into the real intricate, the choosing of songs. And Herb, you were around to see the collaboration that took place. There was a constant battle that went on. What you wanted to sing lyrically versus what the company felt was commercial. Mm-hmm. That battle still exists today. Mm-hmm. You knew Nick Caldwell very, very well. He was the writer of our group. So lyrics meant everything to him. Mm-hmm. And if you remember when Dick Griffey and Hank Caldwell were running, they worked together. Once And the Beat came out and was a double platinum, the artistry kind of took a back seat, because when you make overnight, you got a double platinum record, and now millions of dollars are coming in. And so the artistry that you had before that happened, when the lyrics mean so much to you, got this song called And the Beat Goes On. So now you want to imitate it to death. That's what record people want to do.
Yeah.
But you know how the Whispers think.
Right.
I mean, you don't get a song for Donnie and the collaboration with Carrie Lucas, where she did the collaboration with Donnie, and Nick writing Say Yes, the Donnie Hathaway influence. All that came into play, and we had to battle with the record company to try to make sure that side was presented. So I mean, you know it well, Herb. We're not even talking about marketing.
Right.
You were on the marketing side. You know, you did after the record was out. There was another whole war as to how it was going to be marketed and who had to say so. You know, it's very, very intricate. But when it's all said and done, you know, if it makes a hit, everybody's happy.
Right.
But we never strayed, and to this day, I don't think we've ever strayed from what we consider the most important thing is lyrics. Lyrics, everything. Next to lyrics is feel, as Scotty put it. And I think that those two things are what we really kind of have as we speak sitting here today. Feel.
I might disagree with you a little bit. I think the most, well, you might not, but for me personally, I just can't imagine one twin singing. The combination of your two voices is, I'm sure the angels up above are just jealous of that combination, and the way that you guys handle a song, and even sometimes when you're not doing leads, you're doing the backgrounds.
Yeah.
It feels like you're just born knowing each other, and it seems seamless. I mean, as an engineer, it feels like you just copied the same part. It's so tight. You know what I'm saying?
Well, what you didn't see was the fights that went on. For instance, when we were excited about a song, Scotty and I would almost come to blows as to who was going to lead it. You know, Scotty says, "I'm sorry, Walt, you're not leading this. I'm doing this whole song." And you know what? We recorded Lady. He did the whole song.
Yeah, well, maybe let's don't talk about that part. Let's talk about the part where you guys.
No, that's the good part. Listen.
Yeah, that's what I mean about feel, because you know what? We did about 20 takes of Lady, but you know what we used? His very first take.
I'll be there.
Yeah, well, that's why I go back, and it's not. I'm not disagreeing because I do, but we just it's a slight disagreement because he puts lyrics and I put feel. Number one for me is feel, because I've heard lyrics that I couldn't even understand it, but if it felt right, I didn't care what it was anyway. So that's why I know. But and that I think that's what Dave is saying too.
Yeah.
But the sound that you're hearing, I think Dave comes with. If you notice, most family groups like the Emotions, who are all sisters, and I mean, the Jacksons, it's something about, they just have a different feel. It's a natural feel, and twins is even worse. The only difference between me and Walt was a half step. That was it.
That's it.
My whole career.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And who's higher?
Scotty.
I'll be damned.
Half step higher than me.
I'll be damned. The other thing that's interesting about your career is how many people, there's a timeless component to it. You're still being you, but it still ain't old.
Man, you know what, Herb? We say this all the time. Thank God we chose to sing rhythm and blues. Because that type of music is timeless. You know, now hip hop has taken its place. It's definitely, we're in an era of hip hop. Rhythm and blues is like constant. And because the remnants of hip hop is rhythm and blues, whether the young people know it or not.
For sure.
And when you sing, you know, when you think about guys like Donny Hathaway and, you know, singing rhythm and blues, the Dramatics, the Temptations, all these stand-up groups, they're singing rhythm and blues. And here we are 40, 50 years later, you play their songs today and you still, it's like you heard it yesterday. It just that's the effectiveness of rhythm and blues, man.
I call it black music classical music.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, it's kind of our classic music, but our has become redefined. If you go to England, they celebrate R&B music like we should here.
Right.
And the hour is now broader. And the reality of it is, from what I gather in my world, hip hoppers now like, oh wait, here's what I can learn from that, or here's what I can sample from that, or like I talked about at the beginning of the show, the number of younger acts that Wiz Khalifa and Mobb Deep and all these folks will sample whisper music, or Snoop wanting you to perform at his thing. You know, I talked to somebody near the camp across the street at 1500, and they talked about the Whispers like the Whispers were a group they were listening to today. So there is the notion that when you are classical in your behavior and your approach, then your product becomes classic. You know, and classic doesn't mean old; it means special.
Yeah. Wow. It's timeless. It's timeless as far as
And
absolutely.
another thing we don't want to talk about, but if you want to get laid, play a Whispers song.
Pretty much.
Guys,
That's
what did you guys learn? Was it true that you spent a lot of time on street corners in a couple of different cities? And what did you learn from that? What did you learn from that you still use today?
Well, it was a doo-wop era. We came from the projects in Los Angeles, projects of Jordan Downs to be specific.
Yeah.
And we were singing rhythm and blues, doo-wop. And to this day, what we do is a form of doo-wop. It's just, modernized.
It's dressed up.
You learned
Dressed up a little bit, but it's really doo-wop, you know? Yeah.
You learn the ins and outs of entertaining a crowd, whether it be 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say we owe that to Nick Caldwell. You know, his motto. I mean, his whole thing. He's the one that said, from the minute you step on stage until you come off, there's certain things that should happen. You know, like my brother left and went to Vietnam, and when he left, we didn't know anything about those kind of things. You know, we were learning our craft. And Nick is the one that went and seen, and people, believe it or not, like the OJs and the Temps, and we watched them, and we said, oh, okay, now singing was never the problem. And what we found out that you really needed more than singing. You hit on it earlier. You can sing, and then now can you entertain? That's 2 totally different things. And what we learned how to do while Walt was gone was to entertain. And that started from the minute you come from backstage until you leave the stage. Like Herb said it, I mean, it's funny, but it's true. He said there was moves that were thought out. Because I asked Nick, I said, man, how the hell did you even think about that? And then probably who cares about it? And I learned later on, there's a reason for everything.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's another thing when you talk about hip hop or whatever you want to call it, R&B, that's what, I mean, look at James Brown. He was, to me, as far as I'm concerned, he was ahead of all of it. And he wasn't a great singer, but he was the greatest entertainer that ever lived, if you really want to think about it. If you tell me what you can understand what he was saying, you'd be lying. I know you did. You know,
it didn't matter.
But you didn't care.
Yeah.
Because what he was doing fascinated you, and he said, man, oh my God, this guy's a killer. That's the school we came from.
100%. And I got to tell you something that, and Dave and the team at Pensacola Plays know this for a fact. When Pensacola Plays does something live, we're not singing, but every fucking bit of that discipline is going on stage. You better fucking believe it. I will kill people for that shit. That's how I was trained. That's partly Solar, that's partly Whispers, and our events absolutely rock because there's not one detail that goes by. I will not allow. It's just, you know, it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's why you've been as successful as you are. We're not surprised.
I mean, look, for whatever it's worth, so the audience knows that Scotty's daughter Tyler oversees our social media, has been with us for a long time, has been a lot of our success. So there's a family component to this, but we really are just, you know, we're following your lead. Back to the music thing really quickly. The other thing that the Whispers were always committed to, besides their stagecraft, was to having a band on stage. To play to live music. And even as you incorporated technology as it moved on, the predominant thing was live musicians playing your thing and utilizing live musicians in your stagecraft to emulate moves and to do things and to do background vocals and so on and so forth. And it's just this choreographed, smooth thing that looks effortless, but it's really put together with precision. Is it better as singers to be in front of the band for you guys?
Oh, what a joy. I mean, you know, today we do shows, here we are 50 years later, we do shows today with acts that come on and they have a track that plays everything.
Yeah.
And you get to see what Scotty talked about in terms of feel versus technology, because all the parts, when you do a track show, all the parts are there. You know, whether you can feel them, just compare that track to a live band. There's no comparison.
No comparison.
There's no comparison. And you know, the younger guys, you know, that do shows with track, they stand and they marvel when they hear this live band with 6 pieces, you know, 2 keyboards, and as you talked about earlier, the bass means everything. The bass and the drums. You don't have them, you don't have no band. You know. But oh, what a joy! That's the school that we come from, and to this day, man, it's a joy to be able. We got a 7-piece band. Well, you know everybody in the band, Herb, but I mean your audience. What a joy it is to walk out on stage with that band when the music is live. I mean, when that drum beat hits, you can feel it through your entire body. Nothing like it.
And does it pick you up as entertainers when you walk out?
You know, I always ask people, because when I see acts that do track, and I know the track, somebody's playing it somewhere in the building. I'm saying, what happens if the track either don't go or it skips or whatever? I mean, that's the other thing about when you're doing it live. I mean, you got to come with it like right now on the spot. And to me, that's what makes it. But with a track, if something happens, if the guy slips or if the track slips, anything, you're in trouble. And then the other thing is that, can you sing to the track? We've heard people that's got these great records, and when they come on stage and sing, but is that the same record?
Yeah,
the tracks are the same, but where'd you come from?
Yeah, right. because they're lackluster as entertainers, they can't duplicate on stage what they can do in the studio.
Yeah.
Studio can make things sound incredible. When I go on the stage and bring that same energy, that's kind of tough if you don't know what to do.
And I hate to be, I don't want to be prejudiced when I say this, but the only acts I see that can really do that are the old school acts, because that's all they know.
Yeah, that's how you're trained.
You know, they don't know nothing. I mean, Charlie Wilson, the Gap Band, People Bright, all they know how to do is do what God gave them. Right. And that's what they kind of do. But some of these singers that you said, well, I thought he was a singer, but no, this track is saying, no, he's not.
Can I tell a story that we both shared that was just horrifying that will exemplify this?
Yeah.
All right. So the Whispers had a label deal at Capitol Records called Black Tie that I had a chance to be an executive in. I was president of it. And we signed a group called H2O.
Yes.
And H2O was going to be our move into hip hop. And Capitol Records was excited, and we cut records that made sense, and they were entertainers and so forth. So we decide, oh Lord, let's debut them at the Universal Amphitheater while the Whispers have a sold-out show. We'll get all the Capitol brass there. I'm telling you, Capitol chairman, Capitol presidents, Capitol people from England were there. And I'm sitting with them all proud and so forth. So we do a rehearsal with the Whispers. Whispers going to close with Rock Steady, and then they're going to step back, and the drums are going to continue, and the group is going to come out, and they're going to do like a 2-minute medley, and then we're going to close it up. And we're going to set this record off. Night is fire. The group, the audience are whispered out. They're in love. It's just the whole thing, and it's the big closing. And then all of a sudden, we have the drum break, and we had spent some money on clothing, and H2O came out, and the crowd screaming, and they got in front of the mics, and they hit some 3-part harmony. Those notes have never been heard from again. Planes dropped out of the sky. Dollars and cats fell over dead. It was the worst part, and the audience went from to what the fuck? And literally, we spent the next hour with kids in the back crying because they had messed up their big opportunity. The Whispers had to save it and close up the show. The act never saw the light of day, but it was an example of
hello lesson.
Yeah, we know how to kind of come out on stage and give you energy as dancers and so forth, but when the lights hit you,
that's right.
You need to know how to entertain, and you got people in front of you. But it was one of the. I was the most proud and humiliated head all in one fell swoop ever. I apologized for like a month after that. But it was an example of,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, I remember. Great lesson. That's when we learned the difference between, we back to that human element, and that, you know, that's what you can't mess with what God gave you.
Listen.
That's the way I put it.
I ran into one of those kids about 2 months ago at a restaurant, and I wanted to still hit him in the
head. People don't understand that music is playing with other people. It's alive. There's movement, and when you have like quantized music, that's not music.
No.
Music has warts. It has flaws. It has movements.
That's right.
But the beauty is a band following each other together and go out of time together and come back. You listen to the Rolling Stones, they might start a song off at 100 beats per minute. By the time they're at the end, they're at 112 beats per minute.
Right. That human element sounds great.
The ability to move and create that movement in knowing what the audience is feeling. That you have to have that in music.
Absolutely. You know what, Dave, I'd like to ask you a question, if you don't mind. I just want to know, what was it like being in the studio with a guy like Michael Jackson? I mean,
the last thing I did with Michael, he had passed away, but Michael was well, let's get straight. Michael was a shy person, and he was a good person. So you've seen some movies. I know the people that made those movies, they're full of shit. Michael was a good man, and he was a good cat, and he had a sensitivity. When you were around him, you felt like I felt like I was invincible, you know. And when I was around him, it usually wasn't a lot of music going on. I did kind of a lot of that stuff by myself when he wasn't there. But when I was working on "Love Never Felt So Good," the last single I think that he put out, there wasn't a drum track to it, and Michael, he would snap his fingers on the 2 and 4, and he'd stomp his feet on the 1 and 3, and so there's some versions of that where they just put a perfect track to it time-wise.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did was I took and I replaced a snare every time he snapped. I replaced that with the snare every time he hit the stage with his feet. I put a kick there. So
Oh, I see.
So the difference between when it was no movement and all in the track, except for Michael, it was pretty good. But when you follow a person with that kind of rhythm and that ability to manipulate the groove, it was just eye-opening. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
A lot from him. I learned.
Oh, go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I don't want to say it.
Oh. Okay.
I was telling a story that probably I shouldn't tell. So.
Probably.
As an engineer, guys, you're obligated to keep some secrets, even here. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. So one of the most fun things that we can do is be able to sit and say, and what about the future? How do you see it? What do the Whisperers do with their craft and stuff? You continue to perform. Are there other things that you're thinking about as it relates to your music careers?
Yeah, to be honest with you, Herb, we want to tour as long as we can be effective at it. You know, we always say to each other, you kind of know when you vocally don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
It's up to you to be honest with yourself and say, you know, I've had a great run. I don't know if we're not there yet, but when we get there, we're going to be honest about it. But the thing that we're doing now to go out is we're re-recording our catalog to own.
Oh, nice.
And that's the next step for us.
Oh, okay.
You know, after years, thank God longevity pays off, because we've been enough now to record things that we can own that years ago you could never own.
Right.
So that's the future for us, and we're very excited about it. Thank God, the man upstairs has made it. Here we are in our 70s, and I still sing in the same key that I sung in when we were 19 years old. So God is blessed, man.
Amazing.
So we cannot let that pass. You know, you got to go in now and just re-record your catalog.
Yep.
And now people can buy from you.
You own your rights.
Yes.
That's right. It is part of the brilliance of never settling, never getting too high, never getting too low, and being such an example for anybody watching this. I don't care what genre of music you're in. If you take the same disciplines, the same care, same passion, same love, your craft is going to be better. Period. I don't care which is, and ultimately, for those who are watching who are not musicians, you might be something else. You might be engineers. You might be business people. I don't know that I'm an example of it, but I borrowed all my shit from these two.
You are an example.
Absolutely, definitely an example of it.
No doubt about it.
And that's a huge honor. But it's really about having your standard be high and not compromising it.
Absolutely.
You know who you are and have your sample and so now here's the fun part, because both of them like sports. They have different passions about different things, and if you ever want a classic argument, is get in the middle when they disagree.
Yeah.
You literally can sell tickets. You just sit back and watch all the Jordan. There's a mixture of Jordan down, and we've made some money, and different things will come up at different times, and you'll get scared that they love each other so much it's going to stop. But if you don't know the fire, you want to get out the way of that. So Batter's Box should be fun because you all can train that twin power on Dave.
Okay.
So just the maddest you've been at people, just fire away at him. Dave, be gentle, and have fun with it. So Dave, you want to tee up Batter's Box?
Yeah. Guys, take the liberty of either one of you answering or both of you, whatever you want. It's up to you.
No rules.
So let's start off with drums.
Drums, to me, next to the bass, mean everything.
Okay.
The drummer is a musical director. He just doesn't know it. I mean, usually a guy playing the guitars or a keyboard is a musical director, but the drummer is a musical director because he keeps time.
Okay, horns.
I think of our horn player, John Valentino, saxophonist.
I like the brass. I'm what they call a brass guy. And I can see what this segment is. The longer you talk, the worse it gets. I can already. So I'm a horn guy. I love brass. Give me more brass, more and more for me.
Okay, major key or minor key?
Major.
Minor for me.
Oh my God. I opened up something. Synthesizers.
All dressing, that's just part of the dressing of the house. As far as I'm concerned, we still, without drums, bass, and keyboards, everything else is there, but it's just for house dressing.
Melodies.
Oh, that's me. I love the melody. No matter, melodies, they get my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Melodies is the difference between a hit and a miss.
Strings.
Oh boy, that's where the beauty comes in. Strings create beauty. They create mood in the song. It's just a beautiful element of the music when you add the strings.
I agree. Reverb.
Too much will kill you.
And not enough.
Not enough.
Ooh, that's a good tag team. You guys made my day with that one. I'm so happy. Guitars.
That's your rhythm.
Well, no, there's a rhythm guitar and there's a lead guitar, and both of them better be on it. We have our musical director is a guitar player, and he kind of directs everything for us. But guitar player can either be a lead guitarist or he can be a rhythm guitar. Who was the guy that we used in the studio that everybody used? Played the rhythm guitar. incredible guy.
See, you already talked too long, so let me say this. Let me say this.
Okay, I got an easy one for you.
About the guitar. Sometimes the guitar, there's a difference between there's music and then there's noise, right? Sometimes the guitar gets into that noise.
Depends on what you like, though.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, guys, I got one last one for you. Well, next to last. Name your favorite singer.
Oh, wow, it's easy for me. Her name is Etta James.
Easy for me. Donny Hathaway.
Yeah, Donny Hathaway. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
Last one, bass.
Boy. I equate bass with feel, funk. That's my thing, bass.
Yeah.
I wish that's the instrument. I used to want to be a piano player, but as I got into music, I became a bass player. I love the bass.
Me too.
I have one to add to it. In your catalog, favorite song to perform and favorite song that you like to listen to.
That's a great one.
Yeah, great.
Well, for me, it's easy. The favorite song that I like to perform happens not to be our biggest song. It's called "Love Is Where You Find It." I love performing that. And there's a song that I like to listen to that you probably never heard. Herb heard it because it was on our album entitled "The Whispers," the only one that we did that we produced, and it's called "The Whispers Love You Too." Nick wrote it. And we got into a conversation about how can we tell our audience about how we feel about them. So Nick wrote this song called "The Whispers Love You Too." Check it out and listen to it. I love listening to it.
Scotty, what about you, man?
I can't believe for all day, for this whole conversation, this is the first time with the twins is showing up. He picked the exact songs that I love to sing. Love Is Where You Find It. Him too. The only difference is I might differ. There's another song we recorded. It's called "Girl I Need You" by Grady. These are people who are no longer with us, but that's my favorite song to listen to.
Girl, I Need You. Yeah.
Wow. There are times at night, and I'm not saying there might not be some recreational help when I'm listening to them, but I'll put on some headphones and get lost.
Let's go.
I'll put on some headphones and put on a Whisper playlist, and by the time I stand up, my cramp in my thigh, because I've listened to 900 songs, I listened to 300 of them over and over. I have one authorship over the Gary Taylor song, which I got a chance to place with you guys. And there's just something so timeless about the music. But I got to tell you that the people are even more timeless. We want to do this, and it has nothing to do with Black history. It's history.
Yeah.
It's American history. It's global history. It is excellence and craftsmanship and humanity and family. It's a lot of stuff. And I think it's Scotty brought up earlier. Scotty, for the audience, as we close this up, will often remark, the Whispers, the record company we were involved with was giving a tribute downtown, and it had been a long day, and so Scotty was sitting at the table. We were all sitting at the table, but only we knew that behind his sunglasses, Scotty was taking a nap because it just got so boring. And so Tyler and I are laughing at this, but we're not waiting. So they call you all up, and Scotty gets up in his Scotty way. He just says, I'm really happy to see you all, happy to be here. And from the looks of you, it's not a moment too soon.
Long, steady wrong, I tell you.
I'm telling you. So the fun part, audience, is that you're meeting masters. You should emulate what they do, how they are. If you need to know anything about them, you can hit me directly. I'll be glad to share. And I think for me, writ large, which I've had a chance to tell you, but for the audience and for all the people affected, I'm just saying thank you.
Hey, thank you for having us, Herb.
Well,
for being.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say,
yeah,
we
go ahead,
want to say it's very important that we thank you for using your platform to further. I mean, we've been doing this 54 years, and because of people like you and your people, you're still allowing us to get up and have a platform to say and do whatever we're like. Hey, we can't thank you enough. You know as well, we don't take it for granted. It means a lot. So thank you.
And know that this platform is yours anytime you need it, whatever you need to do. You're getting presidential honors, you're getting living legend honors. You all are getting a Doctors of Humanity honors. I mean, you know, the idea that you're getting roses now, 54 years later, says it all.
Hey, man, we couldn't be more grateful. Believe me. Thank you guys so much, man.
When you get the new album done, bring it to us. We'll help you. We'll help you get it out there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. About that. Sounds great. All right, guys.
There's a